Muy bien, pues nada,
Good morning. We're going to kick off because we don't have much time. We have from 10 to 12, and you need to come on stage to make your presentations. The idea is that you have time to make your presentations, and we're going to very briefly introduce the competition. If you have questions, the members of the jury will be around, so don't hesitate to contact us. Here you have the general info you need in order to compete, timetable, the rules of the game. Technical information vis-a-vis the presentation. 1080 with HDMI preferably, or VGA 69. Audio, I understand you don't need audio. Or the alternative, if you have a pen drive, USB drive, you can upload your presentation in our laptop. We have internet, we have Ethernet, and the open Wi-Fi. You can see the username and password on the screen. And you can also use these two networks in the competition or contest area. We have Ethernet via cable for all your computers. So, those of you that have presentation numbers 1, 2, and 3, start getting ready. And the others, please bear this in mind. What is Hackathon? Well, of course, you know this perfectly well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. The idea is that you have fun during the upcoming 3 days, competing, developing, and creating tools and tinkering with tools that interest you in the world of cybersecurity. To have fun, that's number one objective. Otherwise, it makes no sense to come here with this wonderful sunny weather to the coast in December. And the goal is that you work as a team, that you learn from each other, not only from other members of your team, but from other teams, and to work in something that motivates you to create new tools, new solutions. And the idea is that you introduce something new to the rest of the group. And let me mention something that is important. Both Monica and I and the other members of the jury, and by the way, my name is Raúl Siles. For you to know, Monica Salas is my colleague, and I'll introduce you to the other members of the jury soon. Let me insist on open code projects. INCIBE, the National Institute, has well promoted these projects. Those of you know very well that open source projects are very common. You're probably familiar with NMAC, Metasploit, Watermark. These aren't free. Let's collaborate. There are thousands of ways of creating documentation, sending a pull request. There are many ways of collaborating. So the idea is that we work on this and we contribute to this. This year we've wanted to introduce some changes in the competition, and the idea is that you get to know each other, that you know what other teams are competing against you. So here you have the list of teams with their tools of work, because we will hang this in panels in the hackathon area. We have 29 teams, and there are 7 members in the jury and organization. What are the requirements for this hackathon? Well, of course, your hardware and software, laptop, internet access. I already covered that. You need to rest as well. I mean, you need to survive. You need to return home on Sunday, so make sure you do have some time out. And you need to survive. You need to make sure you drink and you eat. Let's make sure you take care of yourself. And to make your lives easier, today we're going to arrange food for the hackathon. There will be a catering service so that you can focus your attention fully on the hackathon. Today it's covered. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow will be quite chaotic. We will have the CTF. The environment will be more chaotic. So make sure you have food available for tomorrow. Today, let me insist, is covered. Please interrupt me, Monica, if I forget something. Each team Where will we work as a platform in GitHub? So after the presentations, you will have to give us the repository of your project in GitHub so that we can monitor it. You need to give this to us at 12:30 at noon. Let me make sure I'm accurate here. From 12 to 12:30, we will have the institutional opening session. We will have that time free so that you can attend the opening session. And at 12:30, we will address those final questions that you may have. And what do you need? Well, the milestones that we're going to explain now. And of course, we will need at least a member of the team present. And some teams have some members participating today in Cyber Olympics, others in CTF. And the idea is that at least one member of the team is here to answer the questions of the jury. As far as Cyber Olympics, I guess there's one person assigned. Yes. Timetable today from 10 to 12 in this room. Milestone 2 will be tomorrow from 12 to 2 in the hackathon area. Today we'll be here from 10 to 12. During the rest of the day, we will be working at the hackathon area. You have your tables assigned, and then we will return here on Sunday from 10 to 12 for final presentation. So it's quite simple. Tomorrow, remember that the key time is from 12 to 2. The idea is that today, during most of the day, and tomorrow morning, you have time to prepare the intermediate situation. Don't worry about taking pictures, because in the hackathon area, we have the monitor, and we will constantly have a presentation, a bit shorter than this one, but with the main info. In a loop so that you can have access to this info, and we'll be around, so don't hesitate to ask us whatever you wish. And well, there you have the timetable. From 10 to 8, the venue is open and you can work here. These are the official timetables, and we know that you'll be at the hotel working because hackers never sleep. That's something people don't understand, but you know very well. We will finish at noon on Sunday, and the awards ceremony will be at 2 p.m. That's when the closing ceremony will be, when we will give the awards for all the competitions. So bear that in mind in terms of the timetable. And as I've said, GitHub and in the panel, you will have info on timetables and also the results panel, so that you know how the competition evolves. It's probable or likely that that everything is anonymous. For a series of new elements that we've introduced, you will see the score and you will know who you are and in what position you are, but you will know who is before or behind you. You'll see Team A, Team B, Team C, so that you can't deliberately attack each other. Because we've introduced some collaboration points, we wanted to avoid that. So we were going to give a more anonymity. We want more collaboration, less competition. But of course, this is a competition. Now, Raul, let me add something. We're already going to randomize the scores. You'll see the order of teams, but you won't know the distance between the scores of the different teams. We want to make it as exciting as possible. Some people believe, no, we're 30 points behind, I'm never going to win. But you need to consider that the first milestones have a smaller weight. Some of you were in the mobile, and the last that was in the mobile in the first milestone won the hackathon. So that you understand how this competition works. How much time you will have available now? 8 minutes for presentation and 2 minutes for questions. The idea is that the rest of the teams can ask positively or negatively to the rest of the team, either make improvement suggestions or raise critiques. Or maybe say, oh, that which you say you're going to do doesn't make much sense. And this is the reality of our community. You have your open source project. Some people say, no, that's already been done. This is crap. And other people that collaborate with you and say, why haven't you integrated this with this other? Why haven't you improved this or worked on this or that? So idea is to combine both elements, positive and negative. And we have the milestones. It's quite simple that we have one today, one tomorrow, and a final one on Sunday. And the jury's value will be 94%. Why is this the case? Well, because we want you to give your opinion as well. And it's true that the percentage that you're going to contribute with is small. We also admit your criticism. During the first hackathon, there was manipulation of the teams. This one is competing against me, so I'm going to vote in favor of the worst team so that my number one rival doesn't outmatch me or outperform me. This is the fourth hackathon, and we've learned from our mistakes, and that's why we've wanted to provide greater anonymity, because some people are not playing clean. And you will have 8 minutes for presentations, 2 minutes for questions. You will have 6% contribution to the score, and the maximum score will be 115. 100 plus 15, which is an extra bonus as a result of collaboration. At the end, you will have to fill in a questionnaire for your feedback, because we will take on board your comments in order to design our next hackathon. And let me mention something else. We've wanted to introduce changes this year because we want a greater hackathon community. In the past, you've seen that people work individually in their teams, and in some questionnaires, you've said that you would have liked to know what other teams were working on to be able to collaborate and contribute. So presentations are public for this very purpose, so that you know what others are working on. And the bonus is intended to encourage you, to motivate you, and to understand that there's always a reward. There's also a reward if you help others, and that's the spirit of this year's edition. The open code community needs to promote collaboration among everybody, not only being consumers but also contributing. Good. We're going to analyze 10 assessment criteria. Security issues of the tool you're working on, functionality issues, a clarity of open source code, usability, most obvious elements. In the final milestone, we review all the criteria, and then the two intermediate milestones, we review 4 and 6. Okay, it's all duly explained here on this slide. Of course, depending on the state the tool is at that moment in time. And it's very important that there's someone in the team to answer questions, and it's very important vis-a-vis the milestones that you upload an operating version of the tool. So if something is already up and running, that's what you need to upload during the milestones. Milestone 1. 50% weight and score. At 4 p.m. today, we will have in the panel some results already. What do you have to do now? Well, to sell or pitch your tool. You need to pitch your tool. I know that some of you aren't that good at speaking in public. We technical people are often a bit shy, but the truth is that you need to pitch your tool, and I'm not talking about commercially pitching your tool. The idea is that the community buys it, that it finds it useful, that you attract others' attention, and so that they want to collaborate with you. So there needs to be a usability. What are we going to analyze? Functionality, technical complexity, how innovative it is, how it contributes to the security community, and we will open up a Q&A for others to take the floor, other teams that will have questions for you. Of course, you're free to answer or not. And 5% of the bonus is allocated to this criterion. The second milestone assesses the remaining criteria, the 6 remaining criteria to be more exact, and the last milestone assesses the entire set of criteria. So on Sunday from 10 to 12, we will present this and the scores will be given. And now let me talk about that bonus that is given to those teams that collaborate with others. Well, it's been covered already. The idea is that the competition is not just about competing against other teams. The idea is to contribute to creating a community. The hackathon, as we said, is only the beginning. We want to, of course, reward the quality of tools and also reward those teams that help other teams. The idea is to improve the overall quality of hackathon projects and to give continuity to those projects. And we also want to enhance or step up collaboration among you because you spend long hours here and sometimes you go back home without knowing who was sitting beside you. The idea with the catering service today is also that you get the chance to meet each other, to learn about your proposals, your projects, and we believe that this can be a good experience for all. As Raul was saying, 15% of the scores will be contributed in the form of a bonus, and the questions and the tips and the advice given will be rewarded with a 5% during stage 2 collaboration with other projects during competition. The idea is that at any time you can open an issue in GHub vis-a-vis other projects, and we're going to score this not based on the quality of issues, but the quality thereof. And this can help the other team enhance its tool. It's not a matter of, let's say, chasing the team that you believe is number one. No, that's not the idea. And our idea for this edition is, as I was saying, to foster collaboration. And we want the teams to openly convey their doubts and queries to the jury anonymously, and then we will make a public presentation of those doubts. If teams have a doubt or a query, they will speak with us, and then we will present these queries publicly. That's the approach that we've wanted to adopt this year. Let's see how it goes. And of course, you don't have to do it, but if you do so, you will probably be supported in your endeavor. Any other comments or questions at this point? Otherwise, I'll continue while you know what the awards are. And it's true that this year we've wanted to introduce a special award for students, those that are beginning to work in the security community. And we will soon address questions, but now let me before so give you the order. And this has been a traditional process, and there's a team that likes number one, and these are the members of ONTIC. These are the winners of Hackathon 2011 and 2016. It's really a coincidence. You probably feel much pressure. And the challenge for the remaining teams is to outmatch or to outperform the number one team. And they will be the first to make their presentation as well. Thank you very much for coming back again. Thanks very much. These people come from Albacete. They're very much motivated. And Albacete is not close to Santander. They've traveled quite a long distance. This is the order. And those that were lucky to take the floor towards the end, like Malware Scanner, will have the chance to see others present first. But the idea is that in final presentations, in the next milestones, we will give the floor first to the last. The idea is that you all find yourselves in the same situation. And Those teams that know that they're going to take the floor right after the presenting team, please start getting ready so that uh, it's all a fast process. We want to make sure that we streamline this process as much as possible. That's it on our side. Any questions, any doubts? If so, yes, no? Apparently it's crystal clear. Really? No queries, no doubts? We're amazing, no? Well, jokes aside, you have the document with all the info. You have questions. Feel free to interrupt us. The first group can stand up, come to stage. Let's forget about the formalities here. We're here in a community, so get ready to make your presentation. We have laptops with 1080 HDMI or VGA. We're going to start, or a USB drive if needed. I'm going to remove my laptop and I'm going to introduce the members of the jury. We have Dani Garcia Cron. Please stand up. Chep, you probably have met him. He doesn't collaborate with open source projects, right? Jose Selvi, he's also new, right? He began very recently working in this field, and he has well-known tools. We have Carol, and we thought that it would be interesting to have someone from the local community. Celcon is the name of the Santander local community. We wanted to have someone represented, so thanks very much, Carol. We have Vicente Aguilera. He's new, right? He's a newcomer, a rooker. He doesn't really like Twitter, right? But apparently he has a tool that works in Twitter. And we have Oscar, or Mr. Breakfast, from INCIBE, the National Institute, and he has joined us in all the hackathons, and he is amazing. And he'll probably be willing to share INCIBE's approach and views. And Monica is also a member of the team. You've already seen her. So we're going to give the floor without further ado to the first team. If you need anything specific for your presentation, please let us know. You have these two mics. I believe that there are a couple of hand mics for questions. We will move around the mics as required. So please come on stage and get ready for your presentation.
El HDMI no sé si va. Bueno, podemos probar. ¿Y el HDMI con el VGA? Sí.
Este micro yo creo que nos hará falta.
Sí. Bueno. Pues listos. Cuando...
We're ready to go? Can we start? Okay, I'll start. Go for it. Good morning. Well, we're the ONTIC team made up of Ricardo, Alex, Germán, and myself. My name is Alfonso. We work for a company in Albacete called Click Soluciones. We work with free software, and we specialize in e-commerce. We also participate in the Navaja Negra Congress organized in Albacete in our city, and we are the defending champions. We won in 2015 and in 2016, and we're here to try to win again. And of course, we're here to try to have fun together with all of you. The tool we want to present is RFM, Radio Frequency Mapper, or RF map, that is aimed at detecting and monitoring networks and wireless devices. This is the equivalent to FIN for Android or NMAC, but targeted towards wireless networks and devices. As for the aspects we want to focus on, we want to provide support for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Internet of the Things in 433 and 568 megahertz, GSM, and radio frequency of all sorts or types. What are the features or capabilities that we want to give to this tool? Number one would be to detect wireless networks and devices. As I said earlier, the idea is to make an inventory of the radio electrical spectrum to be able to monitor all these devices and networks and other conditions we want to implement related with time. We want to be able to match data with time graphs. We want to try to identify protocols and services that offer these networks or devices, implement an alerts system to be able to detect new devices, and this tool can be used to optimize the use of the spectrum, and the idea is that it helps in the planning of wireless deployments. As for the scope, it's quite wide. We believe that this tool can be used in professional settings for pen testing and security, also industrial settings. We wanted to present you a case study, and also for network deployment purposes. It's a free tool and everybody can use it. And the tool will be free software. We believe that it can be scalable, and that we can increase its functionality further. And as I will add now, the idea is that we can add additional hardware. Of course, there are no tools available as of today like RF map. It's true that there are some applications out there that cover some of the aspects that we cover. We have scanners for Wi-Fi, for Bluetooth, and for other technologies, but there's no tool, no open source tool that encompasses all these elements. So our idea is to be able to embrace all these wide variety of technologies and devices, and the idea is to bring them together under the umbrella of our tool. During the past years, we've understood that there has been a blossoming in the use of wireless devices, and traditional security audits are sometimes missing some of these devices because there is no tool out there that helps security technicians manage all networks and devices. There is a wide variety of software out there that adds to the complexity. We also want to implement a reporting tool as well. As for the technology we're going to use, we have a combination of software and hardware. Regarding software, we want to do a core that will be in charge of processing the tool, and then we want to do separately a web interface in order to administer this. As for hardware, we have a great amount of wireless hardware, but it's very expensive, very costly, and we want this tool to be a low-cost tool. So we're going to use the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth of the laptops we're going to use, and for radio frequency purposes, we're going to use a device that you're seeing on screen, basically small sticks that are used to watch TV, TDT, but thanks to a hack that was published some years ago, these can be used in SDR, software-defined radio SDR that will help us work for this hackathon, and the frequencies between 22 and 2200 megahertz. We've chosen this device because it's very cheap. You can find it on eBay at €6, although there are some more expensive and pricey devices. The idea is that anyone can easily access this tool. As for development, well, we start from scratch. We haven't brought anything already done. And the technologies that I mentioned earlier, we want to implement Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, IoT, and GSM. And I've prepared some questions. And this year, we want to promote collaboration. And from minute one, we want to help you. And if, aside from these 4 technologies that we've considered, you believe that other devices and other technologies could be of interest, since we've come with virtually nothing, it would be interesting to add further things. As for the radio frequency spectrum, if you believe that there's a specific part of the range that is more interesting because it's impossible to cover it all, please feel free to give us your advice or suggestions. And regarding the interface, if you have any proposals as to what you believe is essential and needs to be included, any tips regarding the visual settings, please feel free to let us know. I'm about to wrap up, so bear with me a minute. Regarding scalability and community, as we do with all our projects, we always believe that design should be collaborative in nature.
In addition to the development, we want to have an easy tool so you can add new devices. You can use it with new technologies that can detect new vulnerabilities, and of course multi-language and translation included. And to conclude, I'd like to thank you all for being here. I would like to thank the organizers for having supported with transport that has been a bit difficult. To wish you the best of lucks. I hope we will enjoy the next few days, and if you have any questions, we are available.
Preguntas.
Do you have any questions? And please use the microphone. If you ask questions, then we members of the jury, we will ask you questions later on. Do we have any question or comment? Good morning. In the section related to radio frequency, what are the devices you're using? In relation to radio frequency, what are the devices you use? From 430 megahertz, you need a specific license. We haven't decided yet, but we have 2 bags full of devices, PMRs, we have wireless headsets, and many different devices. We don't even know what frequency do they work in. The idea is to work now on that and analyze its suitability, but we have a wide range, and 433 megahertz, that is a normal frequency. For IoT, that is an open frequency. I believe they will be compatible. Thank you. Short questions and short answers, otherwise we will not have enough time. More questions? The second team, Trojan, please come to the panel. If there are no further questions, I will make one. Why haven't you used Kismer? It's true that you never find a tool that is useful for your purpose, but the more suited one is Kismer, that allows you to use Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and other wireless technologies as plug-in. Kismer, as much as I know, is suitable for supported technologies, But when we wanted to go away and make a spectrum analysis or to work with GSM, here I see that Kismet and other tools that are focused for scanning were not so powerful. Some of those tools are specific. They will support Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. This part is easy, but when you get out of this range and you want to use different devices at different or weird frequencies, then it's not appropriate. Basically, it has the capacity for plugins to add new things. I'm just being the devil's advocate here, and this is something very common in our community. So thank you. Now the team Troyana, thank you.
Animaros a preguntas. Hemos intentado romper un
And please ask questions. We thank the first person to ask a question. Everything seems to be very clear today. What they didn't say is that they thank you for being here, and also, of course, competition is open, so.
¿Prefieres estar? Sí, aquí. Pues toma.
Vale. Hola, ¿se me escucha?
Hello, can you hear me?
Bueno, hola a todos.
Good morning to everyone. Our name is Tooth Transport Oriented to Hive. We'd like to thank Hackathon's organizers. We decided to bring the drones last minute. We asked them if they could get us some. They gave a quick response. We couldn't bring drones here because of potential accidents. We understand it. Who we are. First, we have to introduce myself. I am Daniel Garcia. My colleague is Miriam Tendero, founders of the hacking group in our faculty at the Complutense University in Madrid, and we organize the cybersecurity event, Macro Party Madrid, and we are members of an NGO devoted to open source, the functionalities of the project. I will introduce the project in a graphic way. We want to set a communication in a specific area. This is Spain. The area of our choice is Cantabria. In this area, we're going to deploy all our drones. In this inside, Elena would like to contact Jose through the cloud created by our drones. How is this going to work? These are our drones that will be located in different sites that will be fixed for a specific drone. Then Elena is here. Elena and Jose. Elena wants to send a message to Jose. So Elena will connect to a drone. The drone will receive Elena as verifying her identity through user authentication. The drone gets the message and then connects to another drone, and the second drone says, okay, you belong to my system, and I accept the message. And the same process goes on with the next drone. The fourth drone detects that Jose is a user, and therefore Jose can open the message. The scope of application of the project and benefits for the community is a new cloud created from the scratch for communications. Some of the uses might be military in conflictive areas, or the army is in the desert without connection. We launch our drones and they will be able to connect to another site in the same area, or catastrophes. We had fires in Galice. We launch our drones and the fire brigade can communicate among themselves without interference. Security, what we will do to avoid the security leaks is detection. There will be authentication for everyone that wants to connect to our cloud to avoid drones impersonation. So that could be a problem to the rest of the drones. And using coded or cipher message end to end. And if somebody captures it in the middle, they will not be able to read it because it's encrypted. This is a new concept. I haven't seen any project that has a new communications code based in drones. At least myself and my colleague do not know it. There are similar projects. Google, a large company, but Google uses drones that provide internet access. We want to facilitate a communications network only for a specific team. Our approach for the competition. This is our starting point. We have the concepts, the planning, the drafts, but we start from scratch. This is the idea. With your help, you will help us to carry on. There will be a connection between users and nodes. This is a fixed authentication to avoid aliens to the system. Then we will generate tables, exchange. The drones get to know the neighboring drones to select the one that has to send the message, and then secure information. We want communication end-to-end in a coded way, encrypted way, so nobody can read it. We want to highlight that this is a new communications system that is needed. We need a reliable and stable communications way. You just have to launch the drones. My colleague and myself, we want to bring about the future into today, and we will do it in CyberCamp. Thank you.
¿Preguntas?
Do you have any questions? All right. Please use the microphone.
Hago un random, ¿vale? Porque...
Okay, hello. I have two questions. The first, how are you going to set the shortest path and the connection among nodes so that is the fastest one? How are you going to avoid possible loops among the nodes or drones themselves? Okay. The idea is that this drone, I don't know if the pointer is working. Can you see the... Okay, I'll do it with my finger. This drone is going to be in this area. It will have in the algorithm that the drones 3 and 2 are close. And it detects that the closest one is drone number 3. That will be the one that gets the information. In all the tables and algorithms, we will have point A and point B. Elena sends the message, and the drone says it will have to reach drone 3 in order to get to Jose. Drone 3 will decide whether the most suited drone is number 4 or not. Yes, but in order to avoid loops, it will be in the algorithm. So the shortest pathway will be indicated. In case it's not possible, it will go from one into another. But it will be in different layers, first, second, and third. Once it goes to the second level, it cannot go back to the first. Hello. What happens if a drone disappears, or is it just falls down? I can speak about a shepherd that just with a stone could destroy a military plane or helicopter. But if the 3 dies, let us imagine that it disappears from this area. The rest of the drones will deal with the area, so there will be full coverage without voids. And in this case, we are speaking about 5 drones, but Elena can be here, and Elena decide who she wants to connect to. More questions? Please introduce yourselves with the name of your team. We are Montserrat team, and I have 2 questions. Wouldn't it be more efficient to check whether the receiver belongs to the system before making the routing? Elena knows that she will send a message to Jose, but is the latest drone the one that verifies that the recipient of the message belongs to the system? You can save all this if you can use drone number 4 without the check-in, but we wanted to do it to make it more reliable. Yes, you should check it, but if there isn't a user, or you avoid all the processing. I don't quite grasp what you mean. Here you have received the message in 3 different drones, and you have processed the message in 3 drones, which has meant expenditure in processing, heat, batteries, power. If only 2 drones process the message, with user authentication, the idea was to make it free and open. Then in CyberCamp asked us to make it more secure, and we implemented security features. Maybe number 1 and number 3 can wait for number 4 to check that Jose is an authenticated user, and then he could get the message. But it would take longer if it's reliable. The idea of the project is to have different layers, level 2, and the fastest, the better. Yes, but then the check-in is through keys, right? Why don't you create a distributed database so that each drone can check without needing to be close to the user whether this user belongs to the system or not? Each drone will have its own mini database. Elena will connect to the drone, sending a hash or a token, and this hash identifies just one person. When logging in, if the drone acknowledges that it's just one person, it can get the message. Drone 1 will connect to the 3. It will send the hash or the token to number 3. Drone number 3 will say, this belongs to one of our drones, so I let you pass the message through. What is the advantage compared to post-satellite communication? This is going to be just above your head. Yes, you can have satellite communication, and it's more profitable, but if it's not possible, at least you have the possibility to launch the drones, and it will be ready in 10 seconds. Wouldn't it be better to use land drones that are less visible and attackable? In this case, we use drones to use a visible example, but what we're going to develop here can be used for land ones or any other. Drones are just visible. I love them. So to be able to use a drone and see how they exchange messages is something we love. But the idea is that the code that we will develop here can be used in any different platform, even in a Raspberry that is a fixed device. Cyber Watcher and here can now go to the panel, and we will stop here. We cannot ask for questions to the same team because the rest of the teams will not have a chance to talk. We might have a final Q&A. While the panelists arrive, now you can think about future questions. Okay, here I am, Carlos from Cyber Watcher. Nice to meet you. I'm not an expert in drones. I don't know if you control so much. No, we're not real experts. You work on the code. We've been working with drones. We have piloted them from the computer, but I couldn't speak about being an expert. What about the technical specifications of the drones? What is their height limit or their scope of each drone in order to reach a second one? It will be implemented through Wi-Fi, but also Bluetooth is possible. The idea is not so much the drone, but the code. drones will be connected by intensity. The closer, the better. If the drones have a range of 200 meters of communication, they will have to be connected. Each drone 200 meters, for example. The idea is to develop a system to communicate anything. As our colleague said, it could be in mobile mini cars or drones. You detect the signal, and the closest one detects the message. Is as setting a cloud system. Are you going to use the handheld microphone or the fixed one? This is very difficult to pronounce. Mupatmex crew, please get ready. So we set the presentation. And then return 0 so that they get ready. Okay, the floor is yours. Good morning. We are Cyber Watcher. We come from a small village in the Pyrenees, Zaragoza, by the way. Here's Javi, Dani, and Miguel Angel. We come from a Montessori school. We are students, please don't be too hard on us. And we're going to introduce our project. First, how many internet sites do we have? I don't know. Probably, as I speak in new ones, are in internet. Do you have all your information in the net? Is your data secure? Are they being shared by third parties? Who has ever Googled you, or your friend, or your girlfriend? A few days ago, I found a portfolio, a wallet on the floor. It just had 2 cards, driving lessons and a student's card. I looked for the data and internet, and I could access public sources as Zaragoza University, and thanks to one of their publications, a bulletin, I could see what the person was studying, and I could call some of his friends, and thanks to that, the boy got back his wallet, thanks to public information in internet. And I have 2 news, one good and one bad. I will start by the bad one. Much of your personal information is public in the net and can be used by third parties. The good news is that we're going to help you get to know and use this information, what we call the digital fingerprint. Now, digital fingerprint is the trace we all leave when we surf the net. There are engines that compile this information, copy it, and they can be recubed or retrieved. There are many different websites with information about how to erase your digital footprint. It's very complex. There isn't a key that once you press it, all your information might be erased unless you are a very famous person. And I want to launch the following question. How can we access the public part of the digital footprint? This could be with OSINT source, and my colleague will speak about them. OSINT means open source intelligent. OSINT sources are all information sources as digital bulletins, blogs, social media, where we can have public data accessible by all. OSINT is therefore a huge amount of volumes. There are companies that manage OSINT data in order to carry out marketing analysis. We believe that information is power. So what can our tool, CyberWatcher, do? With CyberWatcher, the idea is to determine the digital footprint and our presence in the internet in a user-friendly and easy manner, describing the person's exposure to internet and the level of risk. So we can give information to the users about their internet profile, whether it's being shared in other places or whether there is sensitive information in internet, or if third parties can commit cybercrimes with our public data. Whether the technology is used, we've used PHP programming language, the database MySQL, and Ajax as the interface, user interface. What is our target audience? All those companies or users that would like to access their public information with digital footprint. We want to raise the awareness that it's very important that all information in the net can be sensitive and damaging for the users. As you all know, there are many people that freely publish their information in the net and then they can no longer control it. What are we going to do this weekend? As a team, our tool is in development process. Our idea is to fine-tune it and add new functionalities. Thank you very much for your attention.
Preguntas.
Questions?
¿Sí?
Hola, soy Abel.
Hello, I am Abril, and I'd like to ask you about the functionalities that you would like to add during the CyberCamp weekend. Our tool starts from collecting information in a database, but it's my colleague, the one that will in fact respond to your question. Basically, we collect public information about somebody in the internet. Once we have this information indexed in a database, we apply algorithm to determine the level of studies and job of this person, that is to say, personal information. And then we speak about the level of risk of somebody once this information is public in the net. Okay, next question. Hello. More than a question is to make a suggestion about the new functionalities. I don't know if you're just going to detect sensitive information. As a suggestion, you might add one part to erase the information we wish. All of this that is detected by your tool, so we can erase it. Basically, to erase data in internet is quite complex. Much of this information is in a database. So to legally access this information is very difficult. CyberWatcher is just an informative or information tool. It's just for users to know whether their information in internet can be sensitive to them, and this is the idea. It's just information. If you could erase this information, it would be great. Maybe if you add some messages, like you can erase this information with the following process. If the system could automatically do it, it would be great. We have an idea, but we're just on an early development stage. We might incorporate it later. I'd like to add that we know that internet is an open, infinite place, and each country has its own laws and legislations. And in order to access, we should get to know about all regulatory frameworks. Of course, we can add this information to say, this is where your data is hosted, and you can implement your right to forget. Information is too public. We would like people to be aware of this, and we want to add a script or a fact. Most frequent questions about how can we erase this information, but we do not finally erase anything ourselves. We just provide the information and we raise people's awareness about this. Good morning from Follow the Way Rabbit. In order to launch your application, what do you need? Name and last name? Well, we need the person to give us some personal information, and from then on to make a search of data source and then carry out an analysis so that we can then present this information. Have you taken into account false positives? There are many names, there are people that have the same name. Yes, we already have a filter for the data search. Next team, please come to the panel.
Si conseguís que se borre la información...
If you can erase the information, please contact me, because I will sell this tool, this fantastic tool.
Derecho al olvido, sí. Le das al botón y... ¿El qué? Para el Mac, sí. Sí, tengo yo. Irlo colocando, pero no tiene HDMI ese. Ah, vale, pues yo te lo dejo. ¿Tenéis alguna necesidad de hardware, de los requisitos de la pantalla? Decídmelo antes. Bueno, o sea, cuando os estéis a tocar o ya mismo me decís, oye, para agilizar. ¿Tengo el micro de preguntas? Sí, vale, sí, tenéis ahí el otro que vais a usar. Micro normal, perfecto, vale. Digo, estoy buscando esto. Que se vaya preparando Return 0 luego.
The next team to take the floor will be Return 0, because we want to make sure that we pass on the baton fast from one team to another for the sake of time.
Ah, vale. En media van a empezar. Vale. Más dudas, otras preguntas. Vale. Return 0 está preparado. Vale, pues ir subiendo y lo probáis. Y si no hacemos mientras se va haciendo el troubleshooting, vamos haciendo ahí, ¿sí? A ver, vale. Sí, pues pasarlo a un pincho y nada, ir subiendo Return 0, probamos pantalla, presentáis y mientras lo van copiando a un USB y ahí podemos hacerlo.
Let's move on to the next team while we get the technical issues sorted. Is there a team that doesn't need any special screen requirements? If so the case, please raise your hand.
¿Ninguno habéis pensado en hacer un proyecto que...
How about a project that solves these technical issues? Just connecting and plugging your laptop and have it up on the screen? It's working, so please, the floor is yours.
Hola. Hola, buenos días.
Good morning, everybody. We are Return Zero, Guillermo Rios, Diego Maestro, Andres, and myself, Borja Lorenzo, are the members of Return Zero. We are students of the 4th year of computing engineering in Madrid, and we are collaborating with the SelfNet project that is in the framework of Horizon 2020 that targets security systems. We work in the software engineering and AI department of our university. Bear with me a second. Screen is frozen. This project is aimed at self-managing future 5th generation network. We want to go a step further, and we're going to present the Droid Sentinel tool. Droid Sentinel is aimed at attacking DOS attacks, denial of service attacks. Basically, we're talking to attacks to a set of computers or networks that leads to downtimes and crashing computers, and thus denying access to legitimate users. And this is due to an overload in computation systems. Why have we focused on denial of service attacks? According to a report presented by the Cryptographic Center during the 2nd quarter, these attacks have increased by 49%. As opposed to the figures from last year. According to a survey, 63% of companies have suffered DOS attacks, and 49% of them have incurred in losses in the tune of $100,000 per hour. And when talking about DOS attacks, it's very important to talk about botnets. Here we have the architecture of a botnet, a centralized botnet, a webmaster. Controls a series of command and control servers, and these command and control servers control a series of slaves in turn, often known as zombies. These have been previously infected with malware and are awaiting the command of the webmaster in order to perpetrate a denial of service attack. It is in this layer, the zombie layer, where we will focus our Droid Sentinel tool activities. Due to this increase in denial of service attacks, there's a great amount of uncertainty among users. Are our devices participated in coordinated attacks? This is a question that we often ask ourselves, and the idea with these tool, Droid Sentinel, is to answer this question. It's a very simple Android-based tool that reports on a real-time basis on whether our device is part of this tool and what we can do to prevent this from happening. So, to this end, it analyzes the outgoing traffic from the device in search of malicious activities, particularly those anomalous situations that are part of a denial of service attack. So we want to go a step further. As I was saying, we're participating in a project with this tool. We are addressing a specific case, so we want to go a step further. It's a gadget that could be used in the future and could be implemented in Internet of the Things devices like fridges, with the denial of service attack done with Mireia, which is a botnet. The Internet of Things was used, but in this hackathon, we're going to focus on Android devices. What are we going to do in this CyberCamp? We're going to develop the application from scratch, and we're going to search for malicious activities to determine whether our device is participating or not in a denial of service attack, whether it's part of a botnet. And we're going to study the outgoing flows from our application, and we're going to also do a prediction or forecast of the behavior. We're going to obtain some values. The idea is to protect the behavior of the entropy of the information flow. I don't know if it's clear. That's it on our side. And before I conclude, I'd like to thank Hackathon, and I'd like to wish you all the best of luck.
Preguntas.
Questions?
Hola, soy Carlos de Mupan.
My name is Carlos from Mupan Screen. I have a question for you. Have you thought about issuing logs from the denial of service attacks that you've discovered in the device and send those logs to antivirus or telecom companies so that they analyze them and do something about it? Well, we hadn't thought about that. We hadn't thought about reporting, but we can issue a report that analyzes those DOS attacks and analyzes. Well, that would be interesting. That's a good idea. Hello. How do you know whether it's a real denial of service or just an increase in requests for an application and therefore legitimate? Well, we're going to apply prediction algorithms to determine whether it's a mere increase in traffic or whether we're talking about a real DOS attack. We use a series of methods. We have a series of values that can be parameterized by the user when using the app. So whenever you exceed a specific threshold, you can know that, and our prediction measures the flows, the incoming and outgoing traffic, and based on the predictions and the thresholds, we can know that. And since it's based on several parameters, not just about connecting to Drive to unload something. In that case, there would be an increase in the size of packages, but not in the other parameters. So the idea to know behind this is to work with different parameters. That was my question to you. The prediction algorithms that you're going to use. For this tool, as I said, wow. Well, as I was saying, we're currently working on a project on the security of 5G networks. So we have wide battery of algorithms, whole winter, ARIMA, exponential move, the typical algorithms, but we're still making our mind. We like ARIMA best because it's very easy to adjust. The settings can be customized, but this is something that is yet to be decided by the team. Okay, well, let's move on to the next move out group. For your application to work, is it necessary to have access to root? Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, you would need access to root. But some devices, yeah, I know, but sometimes access is difficult. It's just a prototype in any case at this stage. We hope it can be scalable in the future, but well, as of today, we do have that restraint because we would still have to analyze further data. And yes, as you said, we need to use root, and that's a restraint. Any further questions? Okay, here you go. It's an easy question. Well, you've partially answered. Regarding prediction, the device has to constantly analyze, or are you going to delegate part of that analyzing activity to a central server? Or the computation lies exclusively in the Android device? Well, the underlying tool, well, you need to understand that traffic can be seen in log, and we analyze traffic. The idea is that we don't use pickup, but it would be equivalent to a pickup. We analyze traffic and erase it at the same time. So we reuse a small part of hardware, but we don't exploit all the storage capability because we clean as we analyze on the go. As a suggestion for you, because you will eat up the battery very fast. Instead of doing it in the device, you can send it to an external server, and you will save battery. You can outsource, and you can access the inside root. Well, thanks. Well, the root is not a problem with the logs. It's a problem regarding the analysis of packages. Wonderful. Let's move on. I have a question. In the meantime, you can take your seat, guys. Is this project new, or have you already done something? No, you're going to work from scratch. Okay.
Vale, Botnets crew, perfecto. Nada, cuando queráis.
Hola.
Vale, pues nosotros somos...
Hello? We are the group with the strangest, weirdest name, Botnets crew. My name is Carlos. I'm here together with Valentin, Javier, and Abel. And we're going to improve a tool that already exists that is called Maltrail. Here you have the definition of this tool in GitHub. The goal of this tool, or the objective, is to analyze all the data packages from a device and to determine whether some of these packages are malware, and to alert the user through a window. So what we do is download in a local manner all the info, and the idea is to know whether the package is malicious or not. You use this tool. The tool is wonderful. I used it myself to monitor Linux devices at home, and I discovered many Bitcoin miners that were eating up my CMU. And in spite of discovering them, I didn't know the underlying process. Yes, Maltrail informs you on the malicious package, but you're unaware of the process that executes those packages. So I installed it from scratch. But I decided that it would be very important for this tool to be able to detect the process. And this allows you to do something about it, to examine the process, to eliminate it. If you're unaware of the process, there's not much that you can do. So it's very important that we're able to have that information. Maltrail has the typical server, sensor, customer architecture, but the sensor, in this case, does all the computing to know whether the packages, the outgoing packages, are malicious, and if that's the case, that info is sent to the server. So what we would do with this screen, which is just an example from GitHub, you can see malicious packages and all associated info, destination, IPs, and why you believe it's malicious in a severity level as well. Tells you whether the malicious package is important or not, the severity degree, and then we will use this for a response process. The info on malicious packages doesn't include or specify the process. And our goal is to include in this table the process and to be able to kill that process. If you see the screen, it says high severity, but you have no clue as to what is the underlying process. So that's our goal, to be able to identify or detect the processes. The goal is to transform the mail trail tool and to transform it into an incident response tool to eliminate and also uninstall the file. And the idea is that you can, depending on the level of severity, eliminate the process or send it to a server. As for similar technologies that we've found, well, of course, SIEMs that correlate logs and an IDS that scans all the packages from the network and tells you whether malicious elements have been detected. Our tool is targeted for SMEs because a big organization with SIEM will not benefit as much from this tool, but SMEs that are interested in security and monitoring equipment but has a limited budget and for security, and they don't have technicians that are experts in security, well, this is a good option for them because it will allow them to know whether their computers are infected. Other target audience groups are, well, basically everybody at home that is willing to have greater security. We began from scratch, but Maltrail is already an existing tool and analyzes the data packages and tells you whether it's malware or not. But as I was saying, our goal now is to be able to identify the underlying process. As for the technical complexity that we've identified in this preliminary analysis, well, the operating system and Linux, for example, cannot correlate the process that for each data package because the metadata of sockets don't have that information, so it's harder to know what package is sent by each process. But we have a couple of ideas in mind. If you come up with other ideas or have any suggestions for us, they will be welcome. And our idea is to implement this both for Linux and for Windows, for both operating systems. Well, we've wanted to make a short presentation because we had only 5 minutes allotted, and now we give you the floor for questions or comments. In Linux, I think that what you could do in the virtual file frog system, see all the processes, and there's an FD folder that has all the open sockets, and you can try to match those sockets with the sockets of malicious elements. Yes, that's our idea also regarding Linux. The problem is that that's very useful for TCP connections that are long. You know the socket for the package, but in the file descriptor of each process, you need to look for that socket. So if you have an LP connection and only send one package, the socket is opened 1 millisecond and you don't have enough time to read all the file descriptors of the process. And if you paralyze this or block this for each process, well, that's another option, to constantly look for the processes and do like a cache of tables. Yes, you can also draw tables. That's a good idea. But you're monitoring each process constantly in order to draw the tables, and you need to consider that the connections last less than 1 millisecond, so you should check each millisecond in each process. It's a good idea. We've considered it, we may implement it, but it's probably very resource intensive. I have a question. when you verify packages, are you going to consult the connections done with malicious IPs? Do you have reputation lists? What Montreal does is to basically download a public database from different sources and compares or collates each of the packages with this database. So if you know that the destination IP is malicious, well, you will know that the package will be malicious. So you do consult reputation lists. Do you have any reference as to reputation lists? Well, we download between 60 and 70 reputation lists. I can show you the list later on. I can give you some specific suggestions later on. Well, that will be very much appreciated. Thank you. Further questions? No? White Rabbit? You have the floor now? No?
Lo que estamos, mientras os
As you get ready, please interrupt me when you're ready. Go take the stage, get everything ready, please. The idea with these presentations is that you understand that you have in total 8 minutes for the presentation and questions, and during the final pitch or final presentations, you will have 10 minutes so that you understand how much time available you have. In the final pitch or final presentation, we recommend that you do a demo of the tool because that's more visual, it's easier to understand. So make sure you handle time well because 10 minutes fly when you explain, oh, on day one we did this is the demo, this is how it works. So rehearse this and bear this in mind. Particularly those that haven't participated in previous hackathons that have gone through this know that time flies. But this is a good example of and these 8 minutes are like our rehearsal. In the end, in the final presentation, you will have 10 minutes. After this team, we will listen to Montserrat. So start getting ready, please, to ensure a fast transition from one team to another. Are we ready, gentlemen? Yes? Apparently we are. Any questions at this point regarding the hackathon in general? No? Good, let's move on to the next group.
no, es que está apagado de allí.
¿Y ahora? Vale, vale. He tocado donde no debía, seguramente. Buenas a todos. Nosotros somos miembros de...
Hello, we're the members of the White Rabbit blog. You probably know who you are. It's the first time, however, that we participate in this hackathon. We have a project that monitors activities on social media. It's called Harvey and Chain. We come from a blog. My colleagues are Álvaro. Well, we have two Álvaros to the right, far right, Diego, and myself, Juan. I'm here to introduce a project on the monitoring of social media, not only Twitter, like within this project, but we want to broaden this to cover other social media, Facebook, Instagram, and also other elements in order to try to complement those profiles. I'll explain the features and functionalities, our target audience, what we've done, and what we intend to do. This is an open source tool, and the main goal is to develop a full profile of a person through social media and everything that we can find on the internet, and this comes to complement what was said earlier. All this info is open source info exclusively, let me insist on this, and the goal is to facilitate the analysis of these profiles for intelligence technicians. We have listened to the feedback of intelligence technicians. When designing our project, we're going to work with Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and also Pasadena, a mix of other platforms. And the idea is to detect info leaks and filtration. We're going to focus on specific profiles. Harvey is a project that began some time ago, but not in the form we're presenting now. The idea is to provide a service for intelligence technicians applying OSINT techniques, and we want to help law enforcement agencies, intelligence services, and other private companies that want to use this for other purposes. But our main objective is to be a useful tool for these communities. Innovation and originality. Vicente has a project Timfolica that is mostly Twitter-based. It's very good. And then we have the OSINT framework, which isn't exactly what we want to convey, but it's an info compilation system using OSINT techniques. We want to add new information sources, social media. We want to constantly add new elements. We can add, for example, LinkedIn and the different social media that, well, may be developed in the future. We want to integrate them in one sole project.
The idea is that in one single site we can get the information to have a full profile without having 4 in each social media. And also to develop an intuitive platform for users and for intelligence analysts. The work will not be to get this information, but once we get the information, to be able to analyze it and link the different items present in the media so they can find what they're looking for. And it would be a secondary objective once we have implemented this to make an intelligence about the program so that it can make a first analysis without the role of the analyst, but supporting their task, the general approach. The project is entitled Harvey, but it uses Twitter. We're going to integrate it with Facebook and Instagram in this project. As I said, with Facebook and Instagram, we want to make a way to view the data analysis and data sampling. This is just the first screenshot, so that through maps and graphs we can show this information in a rather easy manner. The complexity of the project, we've been finding several difficulties. The problem is that Twitter has quite a good API, but Facebook and Instagram things are more complex. We found unofficial APIs, but we want to focus it to web scraping, getting the information manually from the profiles and integrating the data in our tool. And then the final thing is to present the information in a simple way. We should introduce all of this in a database in a homogeneous manner and realize it not for the sake of it, but in such a way that it would then be easy for the analyst. It wouldn't make sense to extract all this information if it's not easy to be read. About the scalability, we need a full program, but we would like to add new features. In a simple manner, we can add a LinkedIn module or some others to complement the tool. Something else, and we believe is very interesting, is the creation of an alert system in the dashboard, or as with Telegram, that gives you ongoing information, whether a profile has updated a new photograph or a new Twitter message. They are monitoring those profiles 24/7. And lastly, we want to use a single server with a user's system in the platform so that everyone can just log in to the platform with a username and a password, so they can create their own objectives. And this is the idea. And this is the end of the presentation. If you have questions, we'll try to respond them.
Buenas, soy Carlos de CyberWatch.
Hi, I'm Carlos from CyberWatcher. I believe we have a similar project. We can help each other. Then, with a cup of coffee, we'll can go on discussing. But I have a question. Your main function is information, to get information. But what is the advantage of getting information from Instagram that is based in photographies, hashtag descriptions, and just a small biography? Okay, I know what you mean. In Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, we can be talking about the same thing. They're just messages and images. You can just make a mapping. You can create a map. Twitter has geolocalization in its messages. This is not the case of Instagram, although we might get this information to create a map and trace it, because the objective is the monitoring what QC is doing, where, when, and this is quite important. A picture can say many things about a person. It doesn't need to have data, although metadata are probably in internet, but it's the analyst, the person that is going to get the information and get the information presented in the photographs. Hello, I don't know if you can hear me. I was going to ask you two questions. Even though I've seen that this is a web portal, so you're going to have a web portal, and if the idea is to use another server to provide the service, or to have a in-house server, the dashboard is not implemented yet. It's just a project. The idea, as we said, for intelligence analysts, we like things in black. We like to read the information, but this is not the objective. The objective is for another person whose work is not to read it in such a way, but to interpret the data, and the objective is to make their life easier. About the other question, the idea is that we want to use a server, but you just run the program. The idea is to indicate the usernames of the different media, and the local server creates the dashboard with all information capture, so it could be used locally. Good morning. What is the technology you want to use for scraping? And you spoke about information sources. Have you thought of Google? I've been using Google's API. I don't know if this would be useful for you or not. About scraping, I don't know if any of you have worked with Instagram or Facebook APIs, but they are not as simple as Twitter. The only way to get the information, especially in Facebook with a friends list, and things become really complicated. So the best way was to automatize the process with some automatic devices, automats. While you're not working on this, they get the profile, the full page with friends, and this is the idea. But this is a manual scrapping. You go, you browse, you find the page, and you get the information. Yeah, but what technology are you going to be using? What technology have we been using? Everything is in Python. Everything is in Python. I don't know if you know, but Selenium and Phantom.js are quite good. That's what we were discussing yesterday in the hotel. We were doing it in a more manual manner, but we were advised to use Phantom.js and Selenium. And Selenium for Python has a module. Yes, we can think of it. And I don't remember the other question. About Google, have you thought of Google API? Because it has a great deal of information and the API is quite all right. So far, we wanted to focus on the social media. And then in Google, we have checked, but on a later stage, we will incorporate all sorts of information. But we were basically focused on those 3 social networks. Another question? Your project looks great. It's very interesting, this idea of tracing people through the information that themselves or third parties might load. But whenever I see those applications, I wonder about the number of people that use this information with not very clear objectives. And it's true that there are several applications that are used to trace people. Have you thought about controlling the use to know who is accessing what information? No, we haven't thought of it. They are open source. The objectives of people that might use this type of tools is open source. Anyone can access it. The idea is to provide some support to these police or law enforcement so that of course it can be used to spy somebody else. This is something that you cannot avoid. Hello? Have you thought how you're going to deal in Facebook with the system they have to avoid scraping? Well, we haven't really found any difficulty. We haven't had any problem with Facebook because we were doing too many requests or extracting too much information. What we're doing is reading with an HTML and analyze it. So no, we haven't had any problem. Well, I found web servers that when you do request, they interrupt you for some time. That happens with Twitter. I don't know, there's an X number of requests, and I'm sure Instagram is the same, but those are not requests. It's just getting information directly from the website. I'm sure Facebook has some anti-scraping. That's why it might be interesting if you can implement a distributed scraping system from different IPs to avoid this situation, or just a wait time. It'll be boring, but the idea would be distributed. Yeah, then it cuts and it reboots. We will see. We haven't thought of it. We haven't developed this part yet. When we encounter this situation, we will contact you. Thank you. Okay, we have to stop here, and Montserrat is the next team.
Una aclaración.
Just some clarification. To be nice to the jury does not give you any more points. I'm speaking about the name.
Mientras se prepara.
While they get ready, there are 3 more teams. even though it's 12, but we still have time until 12:30, so we should have enough time so that you can all go to the panel. Whenever you're ready.
Adelante.
Microphone, please.
Nosotros somos el equipo Monse.
We are the Montserrat team. We are a student in secondary education. We have 2 university students and one that is not working, but and not a student, but we're going to count him as a student. We're going to do a cryptographic library based on a ciphered algorithm, the Shasha, designed by Daniel Bergstein, an important person in the world of cybersecurity. The name is just Shasha. All the functions are based on this, and it refers to the dancing. I don't like the name, but we will see whether we can implement DICE. But so far, this is the project's base. The code, we are doing the code with the exception of dance and C. In standard input-output, we don't. But in relation to the Shasha algorithm and the rest, we have done it ourselves. Basically, we look for an easy-to-understand code. When we see codes from other algorithms as MT5 or codes in the RFC, they are very baroque and complex. So we're looking for code that is easy to be understood. Basically, it implements ciphering, and because it's a flow ciphering algorithm, we can use the output as a system that is secure. As a possible example for its use and a possible API, we are doing a scheme of a client-server where client and servers exchange keys through the Shasha. They cipher the messages through Shasha also, and the random numbers used for ciphering, we need this entropy and randomness. They are both based in Shasha. They also implement parcel. Is thought, and this you will be able to see it in the application. This is a view about a code that can be ciphered using our library. Here, the library is not compiled, and then you have to indicate the files, the corresponding files to the library. The file that has the core of the algorithm and the file that contains the ciphering implementation. We have a core that is shared by the ciphering and some others. So here we see that introducing the chain, once it's cipher, we have this second chain. I don't know if you know how hexadecimal codes go, but they do not correspond. Obviously, we need deciphering or decoding, and as you can see, it's not too complex. And this is the message. In the code, we have this output, and we have the original message, which only says this is a message. This is an implementation of the CSRPRNG using 100 random numbers with a seed of 44 bytes. Opposite to the implementation of the random function, this is more secure. INCIBE uses 32 bytes seeds. This is what we use, a huge amount of bytes, is extremely secure, and that's why it's used for cryptological use. Here we see how we generate 100 random numbers, and it's also interesting to see that it behaves the same as NCC. The same seed will generate the same sequence. That's why different calls to the program generates the same sequence. And applications, this is a very light program.
Pero en una Raspberry Pi sí, lo hemos probado. Se puede utilizar para la creación de viruses.
We can use it for the creation of viruses and shellcodes. It's not very huge. Once you translate the code of the core Shasha function to the ensembler, there are not many codes. This is can be hosted in a buffer. Otherwise, we can use an air hunter, and is quite. You can modify it so. And also, as we implement cryptographic functions, official implementations are difficult to understand. It would be easier to help the understanding of those functions. And this is the. Do we have any questions? Do we have questions? Okay, I would like to know where you get the seed from. The seed can be used and get. This is the customer. I didn't say this is thought, or the target would be developers, because it's a library. Depending on the system, you have a secure seed in Linux or from -ref-random. In Windows, you have an APA. I don't know exactly how this APA works. It's true that in some Linux distributions, they use the function they use not in random, but they use Shasha in BSD. It's not Linux exactly, but they use Shasha also. And I don't know. You can connect a radio system that is a scheme, and you read from its leg, and electromagnetic interactions are random enough and not predictable, so they can be secure. Depending on the system the programmer is using, they can get a secure seed. Any other question? Do we have more questions? Okay, I'm going to ask you something. How are you doing? What part is already done and what is still pending? Okay, I'm not going to explain too much now. Okay, so far we have the core. We know that it works. Ciphering and deciphering is ready. We just want to implement the improvements. The AS and the code is made by us, following standards. We've also implemented SHA1 for checksum in the client-server scheme. About the API is already ready. Yes, the client-server scheme is already there. And the parcel is easy to set. It works through Python, through the Python library, python.h. You can execute Python's code. So the user can simply set the parcel with IP addresses and everything works.
Más preguntas. Vale.
Are there more questions? Please press a Grip, get ready.
Me ha parecido ver lo que tenéis hasta ahora.
What I've seen so far, what you cipher and decipher with your application are just the messages through a command line. Do you have support to transmit data flow, or have you thought about implementing it? Flows. It could be a good idea, but I was thinking for the IoT world, you can simply send an order to a device. That's the idea. You send an order, and the problem with IoT, it was in the 80s there was not ciphering or encrypting. It's very simple that you can run in any system. There are not RSA keys. They're just easy calculations based on addition, rotation, and XOR.
Y eso, entonces, pero sí.
And it could be a good idea. We will continue discussing about this for a project. There's one part, and that's the reason of my question, but maybe we can discuss later and we could collaborate with your application. PSA, please come to the panel. Now it's clear for the jury. You have a great work already done, so you just have to continue on the lines of the question. Now, PSA Crypt and then Malware Scanner. The last two teams are individual ones. In PSA Crypt, without a presentation, they will just speak about the project, and it's also related to crypto technology. It will be faster without a presentation.
El logo del cercano. Hola a todos.
Good morning to everyone. I am Alexandro Padrino. The tool I will present, the name is a Secure Hash. This tool is developed based on two prior projects that do not belong to the open source community. And the main features are the hash stores timely information of the chain or file that will be generated by the hash. You store the name, and it can also store the file. It also presents the checksum does not reveal real information, so it's a secure hash where information can only be decoded from the user that has the right information, and is a console application without frameworks, and it can be easily used. The tool was developed in X-base compiler environment. You can use some other environments. It also can be developed in different languages. Its source code shows no difficulties to develop it in other languages. I've used the one I use because it's easier for me to program. And this is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions.
Preguntas.
Questions? I have one question. Why a new hash? Do we need a new hash? It provides new functionalities in the hash that are not the case in the current ones, that just check what you want to test. I forgot to say that this project I don't know about other similar projects, and it's not developed from scratch. I was based on an existing project, and then I will add some new functionalities to check that everything is okay. Another thing that I didn't mention is that the HAS has a comprehensive security level, is ciphered, and all information is broken down in 3 parts, and any of the parts can be decoded without the previous one. So you can defeat the first part of the hash to show a different time or date from the original one, but not always. If the manual amendment is too high or too different, you will not be able to check the first part, and the other two that depend on the first will not be decoded. What specific functionality are you going to be working in during the weekend? I will try to fine-tune the exit screen functionality. I don't know if it's a problem of the compiler, but sometimes it shows bizarre characters. I also try to improve file treatment systems. If you use a data block that is too big, you can block the whole system. And this application will be targeted to security companies, banking industry, military, the army. Good morning, just a question. What is the computational complexity? Is the calculus very costly? Is it light? Compared to the C language? No, I'm talking about the hash, compared to other hashes. The hash generated is higher in its speaking from its length, and it depends on what you wish to introduce. You can introduce the file, the same file that generated the hash. So this is a function that when storing the name of the file or the characters chain that you want to check, it gives you the possibility to internally store the file in the hash. Is applied to the low level, right? Can you speak up, please? Is somewhere between the hashing algorithm, the ciphering, what you're proposing, this is for another reason. This project, as I said before, is based on 2 previous projects out of a communications protocol that I designed 16 years ago. And when you do a hash in such a way that seems to be a bit complex, but what is easy is that the hash can be used as part of a communications protocol. That is one of my final objectives.
¿Más preguntas?
Do we have more questions? Next, Malware Scanner. No more questions? Okay. Thank you.
Y nada, vamos bien. Sí, adelante. Último proyecto, que es Malware Scanner. Nada.
Let's move on.
HDMI que hay ahí.
HDMI. After this presentation, you will have time to move over to the hackathon area. You will have to find your table, your workstation, get settled, and we will be there to help you out if needed before lunch.
De nuevo, mientras conectamos, ¿alguna otra pregunta?
Any further questions regarding the competition in general? No? Everything's clear? Crystal clear?
bueno, por si no se me ha oído por ahí, que os agradezco a todos la participación.
Thank you, everybody, for your participation. It was one of the objectives, but of course we didn't know whether you were going to contribute. And we're happy to see that you're collaborating, that you're giving tips and suggestions, and that we're creating more of a community in this edition. So thanks, everybody, for breaking the ice and for contributing with your feedback. Can you hear me? Good morning. My name is Santiago Faci. I'm a development teacher. I actually teach colleagues from CyberCamp. And I'm here presenting a malware scanner that is web-oriented. The main goal of this scanner is to scan a site that has already been compromised. I have a WordPress or a website, and I've been attacked because I don't have it well protected. And the idea is to develop a tool to clean that website. I teach, but sometimes I need to battle against WordPress, and WordPress sites are easy to attack, and I found injected code that then generates spam and block the server. And if you look on the internet, there are many web pages that tell you how you need to clean it. And the idea with this tool is to have this, if it works well, that is able to look out for malicious content, injected script to detect that, to clean that, so that the website could continue operating in a seamless manner. Many times when you have a WordPress, everything is in the database and you can decide, well, instead of cleaning, to reinstall. But the idea is to not have to do this, not have to reinstall, to eliminate the script. The initial idea is to do this as a command line. So you tell the tool the type of web you have, and for the tool to clean this without having to do any of the steps manually. Why using mask? Well, some time ago I thought about this because I was manually cleaning WordPress blogs. I invented a script that looked for segments of text. It was very homemade. And even systems administrators that have websites and the server that can be vulnerable. And the idea is to be able to clean that web, because the fact that we have the web infected can saturate our email server. And the idea is to recover the command of the entire system. As I explained to you how this idea came to my mind. But in the past, I tried out some tools that you can see on the slide. I don't know whether it was me because I wasn't able to use it well, or maybe because the tools weren't able to detect everything. I don't know the reason, but they didn't prove useful for me. So the idea is to develop a tool focused on cleaning viruses and also the type of website in order to detect generated files that shouldn't be there, and to compare this with the original files that a content manager can have. I think there are some tools out there, Codeware, that does something similar. It does backups of your web page regularly, and if they detect changes, they report you on those changes. There's another tool out there that monitors. And here you can see a detailed description. I would like to monitor websites to be able to report on new files in order to take action if needed. As for the state of play, I'm not starting from scratch. I'm starting from 1, not from 0, because the day before yesterday I began working on this. The program is done in Python. Why use Python? Because this is object-oriented, and I'm in object-oriented development. This is the field in which I feel comfortable. This is a language that is often used in security, and it gave me the option to use web and to use Young. I also wanted to be able to orient this towards the web interface. And right now it's a command that has some functionalities. I've scanned some sites. The idea is to scan also directories, content within files, but still isn't able to do anything. The only thing it does is to scan, test WordPress. It also scans dictionaries of, let's say, templates of files that shouldn't be there. And yesterday night, I tried to have this compared with a clean, let's say, setup to see what files shouldn't be there. I will perhaps have to do backups of my own personalized site. There's much to be done in any case. And I can add Dropa, Julia Magento, and other content managers, and to have a web interface to interact more easily in those files that have content. Let's imagine that we inject code. We need to eliminate or remove fragmented code. It'll be easy to manage from the web. The architecture needs to be scalable and extendable. The idea is that people can collaborate, and if people believe that it can be used for other content administrators, the idea is that we can have plugins to scale it up, to continue developing it without much problems. And other things that I believe it can do are duly jotted down. To use the signatures from WASP on malware scanning that has a database with signatures of viruses and exploits that are well known, in order to be able to conduct a search in the website and to associate it to what I'm doing. And other ideas that I thought to broaden the dictionary of signatures and even upload this in the cloud so that it can be collaborative and it can grow. To do remote scanning, to improve the interface, and then the monitoring option. That it would be interesting to monitor the web so that when minimal changes even are detected, we can act fast and respond swiftly. And that's it as for the presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Make it easy, please. It's a question. Sorry, it's hard to hear. It's hard to hear. I have a doubt. You want to have this locally, together with WordPress servers? My main ideas that I observe the system administrator, I see the infected web, and I execute the command, and I pass on the type of root it is. It scans the place, looks for injected code, files that shouldn't be there because they have injected code, and it offers me the option of playing it as automated as possible. Maybe you should have an external device, because most WordPress are in shared sites that don't give you freedom when executing anything. Yeah. That's what I mentioned when I said remote scanning. That's a very good idea because lots of people have it in shared hosting. They don't have console-based hosting. That was one of my ideas. I had 1,000. I didn't know whether they were good or bad, but if you agree, well, that's good. It's a way of backing up my idea. Thank you very much.
Bueno, una era la que ha dicho el compañero.
Well, I had the same question as the colleague who took the floor a minute ago. I'll get closer, I promise. I had a first question on shared hosting, and second question, you probably use ResX to detect the code and see whether it's malicious or not. And you've probably considered different types of languages depending on the CMS and whether it's obfuscated or not. What I've done now, my focus is on WordPress, as I was saying, which is what I know best. I mean, I don't develop in WordPress, but I've cleaned WordPress sites. Regarding other languages, I haven't thought about anything because all those that I mentioned are PHPs. And as for obfuscated code, I've seen that it's complicated, it's messy, but I haven't decided anything. Sometimes I see a great amount of code that is impossible to read. And sometimes I see that there is a legitimately injected code. But manually I've detected ugly files, but that were legitimate files. That's a good idea in any case. Thanks for your suggestion. Last question, because we're going to be kicked out. Hello. The idea is very interesting. Thinking about the project, do you think it's feasible, for example, to do this in a cloud version? In a cloud version. For example, I trust you, I give you the spyware of my web so that your system analyzes this in a periodic manner. I hadn't thought about that. Because trusting in the cloud is dangerous. But without plugging. Because many places scan your web remotely from the outside and they think everything is wonderful, and if they see something that's wrong, they don't know how it's wrong. So that option is wonderful, yes. Maybe it can have a web interface. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that's a good idea. Because I don't like that idea of give me your data, I'll check it for you. Well, you do a plugin, I can give you encrypted spyware. You then access my website and you scan it subdirectory by subdirectory. Yeah, it seems like a very interesting idea. Thanks very much indeed for that. Thank you everybody. We wrap up the initial round of presentations. Let's now move over to the hackathon area and let's start working on the project. See you there. Thank you.